व्यासशङ्करमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम श्री परमात्मने नमः। So verse number 2, chapter 14, verse number 2, the Bhagavan Krishna talks about the importance of this knowledge or the completeness of the knowledge. By having this knowledge, how complete you can become. So he says, idam jnanam upashritya, idam jnanam upashritya, namasadharmyamagataha, sarge pinopajayante, pralayena vyatanti cha. So idam, in this idam jnanam, or this jnanam which is being given by Krishna here in the Bhagavad Gita. So idam jnanam, or this knowledge which is being given by Krishna here. And upashritya means a person who resorts to this knowledge, or the person who uses this knowledge or gains this knowledge. Mama sadharnyam agata. So when you say mama means me, and sadharmyam means it becomes one with me. He becomes one with me. Because the Krishna here is talking about as not about somebody else. He's talking about himself as the jnani. And when a person understands this in complete, then such a person becomes a wise person. So idam jnanam upashritya. So this jnanam is of the nature of complete knowledge, and one who resorts to this knowledge. That means one has to gain the knowledge, then one has to use the knowledge also. So gaining knowledge is okay. You have got the knowledge. But after gaining the knowledge, then the knowledge has to be applied in practical. So one has to try to use it, the knowledge gained for your vyavaharika jiva, like vyavaharika practical purposes. In your transactional life, one has to use it. So all the values given here, all the teaching given here are to be applied. That's why Bhagavad Gita is actually a moksha shastra. It is not for anything else. So it has to benefit you. It has to benefit. And definitely if you understand it fully, and if you even 20% of what you understand, even if you apply it, it will benefit a lot. That's what it says here. Mama sadharmyam agata. So sadharmyam means oneness with me. And agata means one who have gained agata. So agachati generally means arriving, and here agata means the one who has attained knowledge. Agata. So then sarge api. So sarge api means even when there is a creation. So after all this creation is already over. Now we are in the sthiti laya. We are in maintenance stage now. So the universe is created, the universe is well established. Now we are in the sthiti laya. Sustaining is there. And it is also we're going towards the end of Kali Yuga, almost. We still have a lot of time to go. So we've got 420,000 years in enter Kali Yuga. So we are only about 5,020 something like this. So we have many yugas, many births are there. So it says for such a person, sarge api na upajayante. So no upajayante is na upajayante. Means they do not come into being again. So for such a person who has already attained the Brahma-jnana or attained the knowledge, such a person do not come back again. So when you say coming back means you're talking about only for the person who thinks he is the physical body. See, whenever a person thinks of somebody as a physical body, for such a person, it is guaranteed for coming back, because the physical body belongs to the Prakriti. It's a matter. And anything which is related to matter will always be an end to the matter. And anything which is already ending has to again take birth. So, if a person has got identity as the physical body, mind, sense complex, and continues to live with that, for such a person, rebirth is guaranteed, because anything which is going to end is going to. So, Jatasya hi dhruva mrityu, dhruva mritasya janmacha. That which is born will die, that which will die will again get reborn. So this is the niyam, this is the order of the law. So there's nothing you can do about it. But here we're talking about sarge api. The person who has obtained the jnanam, he will not come back in terms of the physical body, because he is one with the Bhagavan. He is one with the consciousness. And being the Atma or the consciousness, there is no rebirth, because Atma doesn't have any birth. Atma doesn't have any existence. It doesn't have maintenance thing. And it doesn't die at all. So when a person declares himself to be the Atma, or when a person declares Aham Brahma Asmi, right, and he or she understands that the truth in that, such a person, na upajayante. So no upajayante means na upajayante. Such a person doesn't come back. And when pralayena vidanticha, even when pralayam happens, so in the dissolution, when the whole Srishti will be dissoluted also, he will not come back. It doesn't matter to him. So a person doesn't talk about what's going to happen to the world, where will I be, all the people, what will happen. He's not worried about it, because the world will continue to exist. Let it continue to exist. The world came out of the matter. See, the existence, the whole universe is made of, Prapancha is made of this Prakriti only. And Prakriti is nothing, is made of Maya. The Maya Shakti is there. So it is Nitya. It is not actually the truth. Had it been the truth, then there will be two realities. One will be us as a knower, and the second will be this Prapancham or this universe, which is existing independently. But it is not possible, because when we as a knower and we as a Pramata is not there, this universe does not exist for us. So for the universe to exist, you have to exist first. So the universe shines after you, not before you. So who is the primary knower? We are the primary knower. So the universe depends upon us for existence, and we don't depend upon the world for existence. But what do we say? That we are depending upon this world for existence. Right? So the whole, see, what will I do? If it is not there, what will I do? So this is our view, because we always think that the world is supporting us. Actually, we are supporting the world. That is what it says here, that such a person who attains this vision, sadharmyam agata. So he becomes one with me, because all the knowers here, all of these knowers, is consciousness. So we have knower, we've got so many people in the class now. All of them are knowers. And all the knowers put together is the consciousness. They are defined by different places, time, etc. But ultimately, we are all only one, appearing as many. That's what it says here. Pralaye na vyatanti cha. So, na vyatanti means they do not perish, because it is not a perishable commodity. Atma is not a perishable commodity that one day it will just be there, next day it will not be there. It's always there. So, na vyatanti cha. So here it gives the phalam, or the benefit of studying this. So somebody will ask, what is the purpose of studying all these things? Anyway, I'm going to be reborn. So when a person talks like this, when a person is about to be reborn, then he or she is talking about not himself as the Atma, the consciousness. They are talking only at the intellect level or the Upadhi level. So the intellect is something which is borrowed existence from the consciousness, the buddhi. So intellect is buddhi. So buddhi is always borrowing existence from the consciousness. And the buddhi itself acts now as the consciousness. It actually takes or masquerades itself as the consciousness, and it makes us believe that this is what is real. And all because the activities are being done in the guise of this masquerading consciousness, we get afflicted with kartutvam, that is the action, committed action of doing, and also the committed action of enjoying. So because you do an action, naturally it will bring results, and results will be good or bad. So when the results are good, you will enjoy. Results are bad, you will not enjoy. So this is actually attributed to this consciousness which is masquerading. This is not the actual truth. Okay, no problem. So is it clear? That was is clear. Idam jnanam upashritya mama sadharvyamagataha sarghe pinopajayante pralayena vyatanti cha. Next. Now from verse number 3, he talks about the evolution of the universe from the Prakriti and Purusha. So from here he talks about the Prakriti and the Purusha. So two things have been discussed here. And for that he starts to say that he is the one from whom everything comes into existence. So he is called the Bijam. He is also called the Pita also. So we'll see this. Mama yo nirmahad brahma. Mama yo nirmahad brahma. Tasmin garbham dadhamyaham. Tasmin garbham dadhamyaham. Mama yo nirmahad brahma. Tasmin garbham dadhamyaham. Sambhava sarva bhutanam. Sambhava sarva bhutanam. Tatho bhavati bharata. So, see, mama yonir. See, mama means mine. And here, yonir, he talks about here, is my own maya. See, the Avatara Purusha. See, the people like, we have got a form, right? Our form is made out of Prakriti. It is made out of the gunas. Our form is real form. It is a matter. And it has been created using the power of Maya and using the Prakriti, which is governed by the three gunas. Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. So using the three gunas, our form is created and our form is life, the existing form. But the people who are Avatara Purusha like Rama, Krishna, etc., they are not born out of Prakriti. They are not born out of Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna. They are born out of their own Maya Shakti. So their body, their form is of the nature of Maya. So the Shariram, Sthulam Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, everything Karma Shariram is born out of Maya. So they come out of their own Maya Shakti. That is why they cannot be compared. Avatara Purusha cannot be compared with the live Purusha, what we have there. So this is an important point we have to make understanding here. That how, in some classes somebody will say, well, Rama also was a physical person. Krishna was also living in the Janma. He had a leg, he had head, everything. He was talking, he was eating, etc. But the people who come in as Avatara Purusha, they are out of their own Maya Shakti. So they come out of their Icha Shakti, they come out of their own Kriya Shakti, and they have their own Jnana Shakti. So they come They manifest themselves, they do actions, and then they disappear out of their own Maya also. That's what it says here. So Mama Yonir. So the word Yoni is the meaning of the word Yoni is Prakriti or the material cause. And why it says Mahat? Because it is much, much bigger than everything else. And it is the primordial cause for everything. So when I say primordial, it means the fundamental cause for everything. From which everything comes into existence. So Mama Yonir Mahat Brahma. So this Brahma, so here not Brahman. Here it talked about Brahma means Brahmaji. So Brahmaji. So Brahma, we say here, this Brahma or the Hiranyagarbha, which is the Prajapati you can call, the leader of everything, the first creator. He is the one who is coming from the first, from the Bhagavan. So if you look at the Mundaka Upanishad, the opening mantra, Yo Devanam, correct, Brahma Pratamaha Sambhabhuva Vishwasya Kartha Bhuvanasya Gopta. So Yo Devanam Pratamaha Brahma Sambhabhuva. So for all the devas which are there, Pratamaha. So first foremost is Brahma and Sambhabhuva. So same thing here also, Sambhabhuva. So he is the one who is the Sambhavaha. See the word Sambhavaha, Sambhabhuva. So he is the one who came first. So Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma. Tasmin Garbham Dadamyaham. So in that Prakriti which is there, because the Prakriti itself is actually inert by nature. It doesn't have anything of its own. So for the Prakriti to be powerful and for it to manifest itself, it needs to be infused with the power, correct? It has to be infused with the power, then only it will function. Otherwise it will not have, so you will have to infuse it with some power. So here it refers to as Tasmin Garbham, means I actually place myself in that as the power and then I create. I use my power for the Prakriti to manifest. So Tasmin Garbham Dadamyaham. So Dadati means give. And Dadati Aham means I am the person who is giving life or existence to the Prakriti. So the universe which you see here is the Bhagavan. The power of Bhagavan is there. This universe cannot exist without Ishvara. That is why we always have everything as Ishvara. In our culture, we worship everything. It's not a single thing we don't worship. Right from pen, paper, computer, people, anything we worship the Ishvara. And we have a function for that also. For every function, we have something or the other where we worship all these things. Saraswati Puja means all books, etc. you keep there. Navaratri means you have all the Golu, etc. See, the Navaratri is a function. Most people, we understand, oh, this one, my Mamiyar side, everybody said, so I have to keep Golu. So I am just keeping like this. But the real meaning of Navaratri is that you are actually keeping all the different objects there, right from Chattiyar, Chattiyar, Panai, everything, whatever is there. You keep everything, right from all the Devatas from the top to bottom, and you have cricket ground, people have so many things in there. Because all it represents is a miniature universe. A miniature universe is presented in the Navaratri, in the 9, and then you worship them and you pray them, you offer puja to them. Right? The same way, the same universe which is outside of you, you bring those objects into your 9 steps or 11 steps of 13, whatever you got there, 7, 9 or 11. Then you place them and then you worship them. So there's a concept. So by doing that, you are giving emphasis, you are giving power. That is how the Murti comes into existence. So even if you do any mantra also, there's a prana pratishtha is there. I think if you are doing, you know. So prana pratishtha mantra is there, where if you have any object which is there, you have to say a few mantras to bring the object or the murti into life. It is a symbolic way of expressing some mantras to say that yes, now he is alive, and then you can perform the puja. After that, when the puja is over, again the murti goes back to the same form. So in the same way here also, tasmin garbham dadhamyaham. So the same way, I actually give my life energy, my life force to this universe. So dadhamyaham. Then sambhavaha. Sambhavaha means the manifestation. So the manifestation. See, it doesn't talk about creation. See, very important. See, there is nothing called creation. Because creation means there has to be a person called a creator. And creator has to be within time. So whenever you say I'm a creator happens in time. Creation happens in time. Created also happens in time. So three. Creator, creation, the process of creation, and also the objects created. All the three are in time, right? So, but here he's not talking about creation, he's talking about manifestation. So when I say manifestation, it means it is actually coming out of already existing thing called consciousness. So something which is coming out due to the power of the Bhagavan. And he says what? Tasmin garbham dadamyaham. So I myself offer my Shakti into this. And then I let it originate. So it originates automatically. See, this way, this universe, you will see, it contracts and expands. So you can see the universe is expanding, right? The galaxy is expanding, the stars are new. So many things are. Why is somebody sitting and expanding the universe? Is somebody going and expanding all the different seas? No, it is automatic. So there's really nobody sitting there and managing. There is no other Bhagavan sitting there outside, upstairs and managing all the people like us. There's really no. This should be understood very clearly. We all look up for the Bhagavan, say that, oh, he will take care of it. In reality, everything is already taken care of it. We just have to live a clean life of dharma and maintain it. That's what is important. That's what he says here. Already I have given everything. So, Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma Tasmin Garbham Dadamya. So when I say Garbham here, when I say impregnate, it talks about lending existence. Lending existence and consciousness to the Prakriti so that it has the capacity to manifest on its own. So thereby, Maya becomes the cause of this creation or Jagat Karanam. So Maya becomes the cause. Because the power is there. Maya is what is power. Ya Maya, Sa Maya. So Maya is a feminine name because of power. Shakti. Maya. So, and Maya is non-separate from Brahman. It is not separate from Brahman. It doesn't have existence outside of Brahman or the consciousness. So using the power of Maya, which is given by Krishna here, who is a consciousness here, Atma here, he lends existence to this Prakriti, and this Prakriti evolves itself automatically. The world is created or the world is manifested automatically. See, it is very important to know that the Advaitic Vedantic philosophy is different from the Sankhya philosophy. The Sankhya philosophy, it is other way around. It says the Pradhana or the Prakriti creates everything itself automatically without anything to be infused. In Sankhya philosophy, they say that the Prakriti is something automatically created. And when they ask who created, they say, we don't have an answer. This is automatic. Prakriti is there, it will get created automatically. But Vedanta says that Prakriti is also manifested from the same existence of the consciousness. Because they do not believe, the Sankhya philosophy doesn't accept consciousness. They do not accept the concept called Bhagavan. They do not accept anything. They only accept Prakriti. And for them, everything starts from Prakriti. That is why there's a complete opposite way of understanding in Sankhya philosophy. Is it clear, this one? Mamayo nirmahad brahma tasmin garbham dadhamyaham sambhavas sarva bhutanam tatho bhavati bharata. See, sambhavaha means manifestation, sarva bhutanam. So, sarva means all, and all the living beings. Bhutanam means all the living beings, non-living beings here. They, tatho bhavati bharata. So, they come into existence. Hey Arjuna. So, once I have infused my power into this Prakriti, then the creation or the manifestation here which you see is automatic. There's nothing else I do other than that. Because he has got the Shakti. The Ichha Shakti is there for the Bhagavan to create. Then Jnana Shakti also is there. He does not go and ask somebody else how to create this universe or how many, how big should be. He doesn't ask anything. So the whole knowledge is inbuilt there, and also the Kriya Shakti, how to create also is there. So the know-how, how to create different type of species, everything is there. So this three Shakti, he infuses into the Prakriti. And due to this, and then he sits in the middle. Right? Then, because of this power, the whole universe now comes into existence. That's what it says here, all of the living beings here, including human beings. Human beings is only one of the species. We consider yourself as the Shrestha species, but we are only one among, there are many, many species out there. Vedanta doesn't really care about people living in Mars or in Chandraloka. We accept people are there. See, Vedanta accepts people are there are aliens out there. We don't have to go and inquire. We don't send rockets to find out who is there. It's only science who wants to find out how they look like. Because science is interested to know what are their properties. Because they live in matter. See, anything scientific is always in the realm of matter only. They have to have proof. They need to evidence it. They need to support it. Then only they will be able to. But all of them they are doing is only in the realm of matter only. So they will continue to be surviving matter. They will continue evolving in matter all the time. They will never be able to come out of matter. Whereas Shastram, what we say, matter is nitya. Matter is going to be there, not going to be there. But the original matter itself is created from this consciousness, existence, which is of the nature of Purusha, which is different from this matter. It is free from all the attributes. So, once you are free from attributes, why are you worried about Martian theory, etc.? How will you look like? That's why in our culture we do not accept. There's nothing called Shudra, etc. Nothing like this in Vedanta philosophy. Anybody can study. But anybody can study provided they have the required qualification. Not qualification in terms of how you dress and which kula and gotra you come. No. It is a question of how sincere you are and what you want to know, and how passionate you are to know your own truth. That is why Vedanta is actually for everybody. But not everybody can study Vedanta also. That's not true. Not everybody can study. So Tato Bhavati Bharata. So he now starts. Now he starts in verse number 4. It talks more about how he is the father of the universe or how he supports the universe. So let's look at this. Sarvayoneshu Kaunteya Murtayas Sambhavantiyaha Sarvayonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti yaha tasam brahma mahatyonim mahatyonim aham bija pradapita So sarva yonishu. So sarva yonishu means in all the source of creation. So in all the prakritis, it was one prakriti, everything there. He Kaunteya or Kunti Putra, Murtayaha. So when I say Murtayaha means forms. Murti means forms. And Murtaya, when I say here, it means all sorts of forms. Sambhavanti. So they manifest. So from this Prakriti, all of the forms manifest. The different types of forms come into existence. Then tasam, for those people, for those which are manifesting, for those forms which are manifesting, tasam, Brahma Mahad. So the great Maya, Brahma Mahad, the great Maya is a cause. So Mahad Yonihi, tasam Brahma Mahad Yonir, aham bijaf pradapita. So aham means aham, I am the bijam, I am the father who gives the seed. So he talks about himself as the father of the universe. So there he talks about the person who says the Dadamyaham. Right? So here it says, I am the father of the entire universe. Pita. Parama Pita, you can call it. So Parama Pita is the Bhagavan here. It talks of Krishna here as a Parama Pita of Bija Pradaf Pita. So the father who gives the seed. So Pradha means give. Pradha. And Bija Pradap Pita means I am the father who gives the seed to the entire universe. To the entire universe. So I am the person in seed form. So just like in a tree also, when you the afternoon class explained to you also that when you go and buy, go to the garden shop and you want to buy a mango tree. You want to have a mango tree in your house. But you cannot get a whole mango tree, full grown mango tree. Sometimes you can get it, sometimes you can't get it. But he says this is a seed available and is the best quality seed available and you trust. So in the whole small seed you buy from the shop, the whole tree, the whole knowledge, Icha Shakti, correct? Kriya Shakti and Jnana Shakti is there. Is a potent energy sitting in the seed, correct? You only see the seed from outside. Do you see anything inside there? You do not see. Photo is there. You see the photograph, you buy it. You think the tree is going to come. So what do? You go and plant in the garden now. So systematically, you buy cow manure, you buy all the things which are required, you dig a hole, and then you look at the weather, perfect weather, you plant everything there. Then what do? You keep watering, right, daily, right? You keep watering and you hope that one day it will come. Or tomorrow, it may come tomorrow. After 1 week, we'll check, oh, nothing has come again. 1 month, nothing has come again. 1 year, sometimes small thing will start shooting out. Oh my God, so slow it is. When you will become big, when you will give me fruits, etc. So, Icha Shakti means what? The tree will come only when it is ready to come out. Correct. See, in Tamil, just because you like the peacock feather, you cannot ask the peacock to give you feather. It will shed feather only when it's required to do that. Because you like the feather, you cannot ask the peacock, give me feather, etc. Same way here also. Icha Shakti means what? The Bhagavan Icha Shakti is there. So it is present in the form and it will manifest when the time is right. So the tree will come, the plant will come out. And when it comes out, it knows how fast it should grow and how much water it needs for it to, and how many leaves should come, how deep it should go, everything is there. Do you do anything with that? You do not. The tree itself, the seed itself has got the knowledge to go deeper, right? The roots go deep, they go wide, they grow tall, the leaves come out, the branches come out. All of them, do you give any knowledge to them? No. All of them is inside there. Also, when the whole tree comes out, the fruits which is coming out also is in the same. That is why it says here that Bija Pradapita. So when I say Bija Pradapita, means I give the seed and all of the essential nutrients required for the universe to come into existence and function. So example I gave you is to understand how the universe works. So we are able to see how the seed works, etc. But the same example should be used for the universe to see that things will happen when the time is right. Just because you want to see changes happening, it will not happen to you. The time has to come. See, everything will have a time. And the time correct. Because you want things to be faster, you cannot fast track anything. So it will come at a time. When it is ordained only, it will come. That's what it says here. Sarva yonishu kaunteya. Murtaya sambhavantiyaha. So the word murtaya is Murchita anga avayavaha. Murchita anga avayavaha. That means all these murtis has got some forms, some limbs, something is there, some anga is there. Angam means some sort of components are there, some limbs will be there. If you look at a spider also, it has got 8 legs. If you got a human being, it got 2 legs. Animal has got 4 legs. Some have got horns. So all of them, any creation that you look at, any tree, any object, anything that you look at here, they have a form and they have a particular way of identifying that is that object. So it's called Murtaya. And it is of the nature of Mahat. So Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradapita. So I am the father of the entire universe. That's what it says here. Then, is it clear so far, this one? You got the meaning for every word? Gopalji, you got it? Okay. Then now he goes to the gunas. There are, now having understood that the Prakriti is a cause for the universe to come to existence, and Prakriti is the one where the Bhagavan infuses himself all the Shakti and then gives the power to manifest. So naturally there is a question raised that the Bhagavan also subject to gunas, because he is sitting in the middle of everything. So he should also be subject to the gunas. So the Shastram says no, because he is not subject to the gunas because he is beyond the gunas. He is beyond, because the person who is supposed to be the giver cannot be affected by that. That's what he says here, that the gunas are the Prakriti related only. So let's look at what he says here. Sattvam rajastama iti. Sattvam rajastama iti. Gunah prakriti sambhavaha. Gunah prakriti sambhavaha. Sattvam rajastama iti. Gunah prakriti sambhavaha. Nibadnanti mahabaho. Nibadnanti mahabaho. Dehe dehinam avyayam. Dehe dehinam avyayam. Sattvam rajastama iti. Guna prakriti sambhavaha. Nibadnanti mahabaho. Dehe dehinam avyayam. So, He Mahabaho. So, Bahu means arms, and Mahabahu means it talks about Arjuna. So Arjuna has got a name called Mahabahu, or the one with the strong arms. And he's also a person who is ambidextrous. He can use both hands. He can fire arrows from left hand, right hand, and he's a person who can see in the darkness also. That is why Arjuna is feared by all the enemies, because nobody can fight at night. Nobody. Everybody is feeling sleepy at night, correct? But Arjuna is actually very awake at night. He can see things clearly, he can hear things clearly, and he can just by the sound itself, he'll know what the object is. And he can fire arrows at will. So he's capable. That is why he's called Mahabahu. So, hey Mahabahu, Sattvam Rajastama iti. So, Sattvaha, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. So, the three gunas are there. Sattva-guna means Satvikam. So, right now we are all in Sattva-guna because there's a class going on. So, we do not have Rajasic guna. Rajasic means getting very restless, activity oriented. You feel restless. There are some people, if you've seen, they will be, sitting in a Bhagavatam class, some Namasangadam class will be going on, something will be there. And they will be restless, they cannot sit for some time. So they will either get up or they will, go out, get some water, or they will stretch their legs. Very restless, you can see them. So that is called Rajoguna. So when Rajoguna comes, right, Sattva-guna comes down. When Sattvic guna rises, Rajoguna is reduced. And Rajoguna, Tamoguna is not there. This Tamoguna means what? The ability to be very lethargic, sleepy. So if you're tamasic nature, if you've got Tamoguna more, then you will have less of Rajasic and not even anything of Sattvic. You can imagine if you go to sleep in the class, supposing tamasic nature, have a good dinner. After dinner, you come to the class, full course, and then you try to attend the Bhagavad Gita class, Atma, consciousness, Bhagavan, Brahma, Prakriti, Maya, all these things. All of them will be because the food will make you, it's Prakriti matter, right? So it just goes and acts. The gunas are acting on. So the gunas, they do their job. So they'll make you very tired and they'll make you very, very lethargic. So in such a case, the tamasic guna is predominant in the person. Then for such a person, Rajasic guna will be less because he tends to be not active. He would like to just sit in a corner of the sofa and just lie down, stretch like this. So initially he'll be standing up like this. After some time, when Tamoguna comes, slowly you will get slight. You will see the person going down a little bit. Finally, you will be out of the camera. You can't see him anything because he's already flat on the bed there, on the sofa there. Sometimes I wonder what happened to the person. Oh, he's already flat. He's off the camera, so you cannot see anything. Like yesterday, we saw some people were there. Initially, they were very active. Suddenly, they are off the camera because they were feeling very tired. Non-stop chanting going on, this going on. They couldn't sit there for 3 hours. And so what they do, they go and sit near the wall. So they go and sit near the wall because the wall gives them support, back hurting problem. So they can't sit. Young children, 7-year-old boy, 8-year-old people, 10-year-old, they cannot sit even what I am sitting for 3 hours, 4 hours, I can sit. You can't sit even for 15 minutes. They look for corner. So what it means is Tamoguna comes. When Tamoguna comes, what they do is they just go and disappear in the corner there. Nobody can see them. So if they're off camera, nobody can see them, right? So that's what it means. Tamoguna rises up, and when Tamoguna rises, Rajasic is less, and Sattvic is virtually not there. Okay. So that's what it says here. Sattvam, Rajas, Tama iti guna. So these are three gunas. So iti means in this, these three are the gunas. And they come out of what? Prakriti Sambhava. So they come out of the Prakriti. So these gunas belong to the Prakriti. Correct. So the gunas belong to the Prakriti, not to me. So when I say, I am tired, when I say, or I am very lethargic. So the lethargic quality belongs to whom? To Prakriti. It doesn't belong to you, the Atma, the consciousness. So when I say I am tired, you talk about tired from the which standpoint you're talking should be understood. If I'm talking from the standpoint of the physical body, yes, I'm tired. If I'm talking standpoint of the Atma, the consciousness, I'm not tired. Because tiredness is not an attribute of the Atma. Tiredness is actually an attribute of the Prakriti. Because it is born out of the Prakriti. It is a tamasic guna. That's why it says Prakriti Sambhava. Then Nibaddanti. So it binds. So what does it do? So this, they bind Dehe, Dehe, Dehinam. So they bind the indweller. So Dehe means the body, and Dehinam means Dehi means the one who's living inside the body. Kshetram, Kshetragyaha. Dehi, Deha. So Dehi means the indweller, and Deham or Deha means the body. So same as Kshetram, Kshetragya, Chapimam Vidhi. Same way here also, Dehi, Dehinam. So Nimbadnanti, Dehe, Dehinam, Abhyayam. So what it does is, the Dehi is a nature of changeless nature. Correct? So the Kshetragya does not change. Kshetram keeps changing. Example, we are all in different Kshetrams. We have got different personality, different body, different kulam, different place. Everything is different. But the Kshetragya or the living person inside all of us is only one. There is one essence living in every one of us. It does not distinguish between kulam, gotram, or avarnam, achakshuhu, apanipadam. Hope you remember Kenopanishad, Mundaka beginning. So, agotram, avarnam, apanipadam, achakshuhu, ashrotram. Vibhum, sarvam, sarvagatham. So that which is of the nature of this, that which is free from all these things, is the Atma. So he says this, but somehow due to the association of this, or the masquerading of this guna, which tries to make a conversion, or it tries to make you believe that this is what you are. And because of this, you get bound. So Nibaddanti. So even though the Dehi is of the nature of Avyayam, changeless nature, Kshetragya is changeless. We all know about it. I hope you 13th chapter you know clearly, right? Kshetragya does not change. Kshetram keeps changing. So Dehi also is constant, but Dehi appears to change because of the effect of the gunas. So Sattvam, Rajas, Tama iti guna Prakriti Sambhava. So the Prakriti is the cause for the gunas, and the gunas belong to the Prakriti. They do not belong to the Atma or the consciousness. So I am, as Shuddha Chaitanyam or the consciousness is free from the gunas. I am not the Prakriti. So when you say I am not a Prakriti, means I am free from Prakriti, means I am free from the gunas. So your gunas doesn't bind you anymore. So you do not need to worry about gunas. Oh my God, Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. See, it's only a quality, an attribute. It talks about different states of experience. Like in waking state, You have got Rajasic Guna more because activity oriented. We have to be activity oriented because when you're working in an office, when you're doing some work, you cannot be having Sattvic only. Oh, see, now I have got Bhagavad Gita chanting happening there. Appa got out. See, you have to be practical where it's required. When you are doing work in your business or if you're a whichever you're doing, you got to be focusing on the work in hand. At that time, that is work is worship, and the focus should be there. Correct. At that time, because you do not know you are rajasic in nature, because that activity requires you to be active, you are active. There's nothing wrong with that. When the activity is completed, when you want to rest, Tamoguna takes over, you are tired, you sleep. When you come to the class, you are active, Sattva-guna comes up, Sattva-guna comes. So these three things come and go all the time. Everybody will have these three gunas. You cannot say that I've always been Sattvic. 24/7, I'm always Sattvic only. It's not possible. Even Jnani also will not be possible for him to do that. Because it's a physical body. Despite the knowledge being there in the person has to still function within the physical body or limitations only. So understanding is very important. Understanding that I cannot do anything with this. But cognitively understanding, separating them, saying that these are actually all governed by Prakriti. So if I sleep, I do not sleep because it is the gunas make me sleep, so I sleep. Hope you're getting the idea, right? When you say I sleep, understanding who sleeps is important. I means, are you talking about relative I, which is the ahankara, which is getting sentiency from the consciousness, or the absolute I, which is going to sleep? The absolute I will never go to sleep because absolute I is the one which is witness for everything. See, in the waking state, you are there. The I absolute is always there, telling you that you are the waker. Right? In dream state, the absolute I tells you that you are the dreamer because you know that you are the dreamer. Also, when you go to deep sleep, also the absolute I is still existing, but as unmanifest. The absolute I is still available, but in unmanifest state. How do you know? Because when you wake up next morning, you tell, I slept very well. You also are able to narrate the dream also. You run the dream also, correct? And you dismiss the dream. Saying that, oh, the dream is only mithya. I was just dreaming. It's not true. Correct. So all of these things are available to you for recognition. And this absolute I does not change. But the relative I will keep changing. That's why he says here, due to this ignorance, due to the tamo gunas, this relative I takes the position of absolute I. And it disguises itself to make you believe that it is the absolute I or the Atma which is doing the activities. Hope you're following, right? It's very important because see, now we are going a little bit deeper into all the Vedantic topics. So we got two I. Absolute I, which is the innermost essence of everything, and then the relative I, which is the sentiency which is borrowed from the consciousness. It's called ahankara. You can say that, okay? So the relative I is called ahankara. So the ahankara is the one which now makes you believe that it is the real doer. So you now do the things assuming that the Atma is the doer. Because now you've forgotten the Atma. You do not know anything about it. And the ahankara is what? Is a product of Prakriti. It is a product of Prakriti which is governed by gunas. So Sattva guna rises, ahankara rises, Tamo guna comes, Raja guna comes. And depending upon the association of the gunas, the respective activity gets done. And the results also come in the same order. So either you get good results or you get bad results. and you continue to be doing this irrespective of whether you know or not, the ahankara continues to be always be in control, and it like to be in control all the time. See, ahankara will not leave you unless you resolve ahankara. But the day you challenge the ahankara, tell him that, look, I know who you are an imposter, and I know how to control you. The day you take control of that and you question that ahankara, it will not come back, it will not actually govern you anymore. Till such time it is happy to sit there forever and it will just be enjoying its existence. But ahankara doesn't have existence outside of consciousness. So you resolve the ahankara and mamakara. That is, what is mamakara? Extending of the ahankara. So ahankara is mine. Mamakara, I mean all these people are mine. So avaladu irukradhula enakku venum. So the people who are all extended family, they are all mine only. So all the people are mine. So the property is mine, their interests are mine, their hobbies are mine, all of them are mine. So the extending of the ahankara is mamakara. So once you go far into that place, the mamakara place, ahankara will not be noticed by you also. Because now you are really gone very far. Like when you go to the ocean and you do not know, the compass is lost. So when the compass is lost, you do not know which direction you are going. So it will go whichever direction the waves will take you. Whereas if you have the compass, you will know which direction to come back. That's why it's very important to know all these things and control them right in the beginning itself. Once it takes root and it becomes like a big, ashwatha tree, then the roots will go everywhere. You see the arashamaram trees, roots you can't see anything. You can cut the base, and you think that are cut, but the roots are already gone somewhere about 2 kilometers down the line. You cannot find where the roots are because the roots are gone deep inside. So you have to really go to the root of the problem and then cut the roots itself. Then only the tree will not come again. That's what it says here, that nibaddanti, the word nibaddanti means binding. So you get bound by these qualities. Nibaddanti mahabaho dehe dehi namavyayam. So sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhavaha nibaddanti mahabaho dehe dehi namavyayam. Okay. Is that clear? This verse? Okay. So if you got any questions, you can ask me. So you don't have to wait. If anything, that verse is not clear to you or you want more explanation, you're more than welcome to just raise your hand and then you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Then we can discuss. Then in verse 6, Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat, Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat, Prakashakam Anamayam, Prakashakam Anamayam, Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat, Prakashakam Anamayam, Sukha Sangena Badnati, Sukha Sangena Badnati, Jnana Sangena Chanaka. Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat, Prakashakam Sukha Sangena Badnati, Jnana Sangena Chanaga. So, see, Anaga. So, again, another word uses. Mahabaho, he used for Arjuna. So, Anagaha, when you say here, it means the sinless one, or the person who cannot commit sin. See, Arjuna is referred to as a person who cannot commit a sin because he's got very high standards about himself. Number one, because he's brought in a kingly family. He is a prince. So he has been well trained in all the archery, dharma shastram, all different shastrams which is there. Like, Rajatantram, about his own dharma, etc. has been taught. And he has been, his Yudhishthira's also, so he's been knowing everything. Second thing is, he's the most powerful person. So nobody actually can challenge him in terms of war. So nobody even comes to fight with him. So whenever there is a fight, when somebody says, who is there? Arjuna. So they come to party, they say like, we are happy to surrender to you. Before even fighting the war, they surrender. They see who is the other party there. And then they, Bhima is fighting the war or Arjuna is fighting the war. Then they already surrendered beforehand. Because they do not want to get extinguished. So he doesn't have to fight a war, really speaking. So he doesn't have to do a lot of things in that area. So he was a very self-composed person. And he was taking good care of people. The people respected him. And he was a very good friend of Krishna. So anybody who becomes a friend of Krishna, who is Sakha, when the Bhagavan itself becomes a friend, what else you want? Arjuna knows that Krishna is somebody. He doesn't know he's a Bhagavan. See, mind you. He doesn't know he's a Bhagavan, but he knows that he's not somebody ordinary also. He wants to understand who he is. He's not able to understand it. Yes, Suresh? Anything to say?
No.
Okay. Well, you're unmuted, so I thought, you want to say something. So having the support of Bhagavan is important. So Krishna was always with him because Arjuna was fighting for Dharma. And whenever anybody fights for Dharma, the Bhagavan will be always with him. That's why he says here, Anaga. So people cannot commit sin when you are on the dharmic path. When the Bhagavan is there with you, how can you commit sin? So it's called Anaga. Then, Tatra. So among these, Sattvam is Nirmalatva. So Sattvam is a guna. Right? And Sattvam is Nirmalatva means having the quality of Nirmala. So Nirmalam means, Malam means dirty, or it has got some sort of impurity. Malam. So Malam means impurity, and Nirmalam means that which is not, just pure. Nirmalam. So Sattva Guna is always of the nature of Nirmalatva, or having, it is pure. See, when we are having Sattva Guna, we do not have any impurity in the mind, correct? Because it is not possible to have Sattva Guna and thinking about some random thing. It is not possible. If your Sattva Guna is very, very high, see the class right now, they're all making notes, listening to what I'm saying. Sattva Guna is very high. It is not possible for your mind to divert unless the Sattva Guna is not fully there. Is it correct? So when the mind is fully focused and the Sattva Guna is rising nicely, then you do not have anything. And at that time, it is not affected by anything. It is Nirmalatvat. It is pure. After some time, when the Sattva Guna is gone, then it is possible for Raja Guna to come, and it might be having some impurities. That's why he says Sattva Gunam is characterized by Nirmalatva. And because it is pure, it is of the nature of Prakashakaha. So Prakashaka, when I say here, Prakashakam, when I say, it means it is of the nature of illuminating. So Sattva Guna will always be illuminating. It will be knowledge. Sattva Guna, when it rises, it will bring you only knowledge. It cannot bring you something else. Otherwise, Tamasic Guna will not bring you knowledge. Tamasic Guna will bring you tiredness, lethargicness. It will just not be, nothing will be going into your mind. See, sometimes we always have, see in Sattva Guna also, in the class also sometimes, it is possible to just go blank completely. Sometimes we don't know why it is like this. Suddenly the mind just goes blank. All of a sudden, you are focusing very hard. Suddenly the mind goes somewhere else. something you said, I don't understand what it is. So for a moment, for a brief moment, the mind went somewhere and came again back. Correct? So it is possible. But most of the time, the mind will be always be engaged in sattvic qualities. That's why it says here, Nirmalatva and Prakashakam. So when the Sattva Guna is always there, it will be of the nature of shining, illuminating. It will illumine, it will shine. Prakashakam. Then, third thing is Anamayam. So Anamayam means it is free from any affliction. It is not afflicted by anything. So affliction, when you say, it means confusion. So there is no confusion. At this time, you are not confused whether should attend class or not attend class. You come here to attend class means there is a very clear direction that you want to gain jnana. Before coming to the class, you may have thoughts. Today, should I skip or bunk or no? Let's go somewhere else. So that will come to you because depending upon the Rajoguna and the Tamoguna. So Sattva-guna rising means you are, no, I have to. So because you are driven by passion, you are driven by knowledge area and you want to attend, then you would do it. See, when I was learning initially from a teacher, this would happen. Sometimes it will happen like this. Whole day, in the Gurukulam, you stay there 8 hours, 9 hours a day. You study same thing, Atma, Brahman, consciousness, etc. There is no respite at all for 3. Imagine. And if you go there and study, day after day, you do same thing again and again. Sometimes your mind will completely become blank. After some sessions. But over a period of time, your mind will get tuned to it. So your mind will get used to it, then your mind will be steady. Initially focusing for 10 minutes difficult, 10 minutes, then half an hour, then 40 minutes, then 1 hour, an hour and a half. It becomes easy. Sometimes you see in the class, you can see after 1 hour they become restless. Now they look at the watch, they look at this, they look at this time. Because they become restless, something else is coming up, some activity is coming up there, and they are busy. So all these things are actually, it says Sattva Guna is rising, then this will not be there. It's Nirmalatva and Anamayam. It is free from affliction because it is allows you to see very clearly without any confusion. And whenever you are able to see anything without confusion, it is an expression of Sattva Guna. So Sattva Guna binds a person by giving Sukha. Sattva Guna, there is no Dukkha. You cannot say that I am a very sattvic person, I have a very high, and in knowledge there is Dukkha. In knowledge there is always Jnana, happiness. If you only have Ajnanam, there is unhappiness. If you don't know about certain things, then you feel that I don't know, maybe it is possible. So that's why it talks about here as Sattvam Nirmalatva, Anamayam, free from affliction, and Sukha Sangena. So by connection to the Sukha. See, Sukha Sangena, Badnati, by binding itself to Sukha. So Sattva Guna, what does it do? It binds you to happiness. So Sattva Guna binds you to happiness. Sukha Sangena Badnati and Jnana Sangena. So because of Sattva Guna, Jnanam rises. So Jnana Sangena Badnati. So you become bound by Jnanam. So Jnanam comes into being. And because he has attained this Jnanam, he is very happy about it. So I will actually explain this more a bit detail next class. But just to elaborate, just to give you that this topic now is Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. So Gunatraya talks about the 3 gunas and what guna you should apply, you should have. So you cannot say that I will always have sattvic guna. So one has to have a balance into when you should be sattvic, when you should be rajasic, and when you should be tamasic. So all of us have got all the 3 qualities. But some have got highly sattvic all the time, majority of the time. Those people are wise people. Some people who have more of rajasic people, they are more activity oriented. They are the people who are, they like to be very busy. They are committed people. So their mind is very active. ரொம்ப restless ஆ இருக்கும். They cannot sit in one place. They have to do something or the other. So if we ask them to sit in one class for some time, they will be restless. கஷ்டமா இருக்கும். கட்டி போட்ட மாதிரி இருக்கும். So it is like nobody is actually binding you, but you are bound by a particular discipline, correct? So they are not used to this. They are moving around. They like to move around freely. So they are the Rajasic people. So he talks about elaborately about what people are and how to judge people, and it's not judging people. It is saying that how the gunas actually drive the person to be sattvic or rajasic or tamasic. And all the three are actually nothing but gunas of prakriti only. They are nothing. The real I is not actually about it at all. So he wants to segregate that very clearly, which you are going to see in the whole this chapter. Is it clear this so far, this verse? I mean, I have not unfolded in detail yet, but I'll do it next class. I'm mindful about the time also. It's 9 o'clock as well. If you have got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we will stop the class here. Yamaji, any questions? Are you okay so far? The following?
All good, going well so far. Thank you.
That's good. Okay. Purnamadah Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste. Shubhratri.